Good morning, Boker Tov. Today is Friday, October 13th, Erev Shabbat Parshat Bereshit, the end of an awful, terrible week. I don't need to describe to you the events of this week. Acts of butchery, pogrom against the Jews resident in the Otef Aza, the envelope as it's referred to the east of Gaza, with so many people, 1,200 plus, who are now confirmed dead, and many who are missing. The Torah describes to us in Parshat Bereshit the very first murder, the very first act of butchery that ever took place. That is the murder of Hevel at the hands of Cain, his brother. Cain kills Abel. And God seeks him out and says to him, "What have you done? Kol demei achicha tzoakim elai min hadama." The voice of the bloods of your brother, they cry out to me from the ground. What is the choice of the Torah here to use a plural, demei achicha, tzoakim, instead of dam achicha, which is often fine to use grammatically, and soek? Why the plural? So amongst the explanations, the Mishnah in Sanhedrin tells us two things. We'll share with you the second rendering. Davar acher. Demei achicha shehaya damo mushlach al ha'itzim bal ha'avanim. You should understand just how vicious this murder was. The blood was splattered everywhere on the trees and on the rocks. Or as Ibn Ezra chooses to explain, he was killed by in the brutality in every place on his body. Each place was another source of the bleeding. And so again, the plurality. We are giving some sense of just how inhumane this act was, how brutal this act was. And we have heard about things that seem now far more brutal than that. And that's one rendering. Demei achicha tzoakim, the sound cries out to us. And as the sages actually also point out, it's min ha'adama, but it hasn't been fully absorbed into the ground. Perhaps saw pictures, and we shouldn't have seen pictures, but even pictures of covered people where the bloods were readily apparent to all to see. It doesn't get absorbed really fully into the ground. It still cries out, and they cry out. The Mishnah offers another rendering, and it points out to us that this is the way the warning is given in testimony that will involve capital punishment. You should understand just how serious it is to cause someone to die, because it's not just damo, but dam zariotav. Demei achicha tzoakim. Ein omer dam achicha el demei achicha. The Torah says the plurality, not the singular. Damo v'dam zariotav. You should understand that it's not just him, but it will be all his descendants too. And all the tragedy of the young and the old, and especially the young, and especially the very old, is the awareness that not just these precious lives were snuffed out, but all that was meant to emerge from them, all who were meant to live, that would be their descendants, will not come to be. That is the dual lesson of the Mishnah about the kol demei achicha tzoakim, and that is what the pain that we carry at the savagery that was employed in the brutality of these murders, and the recognition that these beautiful lives are not to live, nor their descendants after them. What we can do is to not forget them, to not forget what happened for sure, to learn their stories, to learn about individuals. I encourage you to find out the stories of their lives. We can't sit in the story of their deaths. The trauma is too much for us to tell ourselves to revisit. But to the extent that you can seek out to understand something beautiful about a person, even in their loss and in their passing, maybe there's a part of them that can continue to live. That we can take up something that was of value to them ourselves and live it out in our own lives. And that way, a little bit of their dam, a little bit of their blood life force might yet continue to live in the way that we set our lives. Yehei Zichram Baruch, may their memory be a blessing. May Hashem avenge their murders, and may Am Yisrael never forget Am Yisrael Chai, the Jewish people lives. Shabbat Shalom.